Was the PS5 worth it? Let's talk about my experience after owning one of these for 4 months. I like to keep my videos informative, therefore the videos last as long as the information does. And first things first, your display. If you're using a budget TV or monitor, you're going to bottleneck the PS5 from showing you its potential. While 60Hz is alright, try looking for 120Hz or higher so that you can run your PS5 at 120 FPS in supported games. Graphics are great as expected, although the changes aren't too noticeable if you're playing from a sofa. Even on fidelity mode, which is the PS5's term for max graphics, you'd be playing at 30 FPS and it's not worth it. While the PS5 Pro can play games in fidelity with 60 FPS, it's just not worth it because then you'll need a better display to make up for having a Pro. So when it comes to games graphics, just leave it at balance so that you can have great visuals along with 60 FPS for a better experience. After all, the point of gaming is to enjoy your experience, because if all you wanted to do was watch visuals with the loss of frame rate, then you might as well just watch a movie. The console itself is great, initializing is straightforward, and it offers an eco mode during the setup which has no effect on gameplay but instead uses reduced amount of electricity if the console is put into rest mode. This is useful for people in regions where electricity gets expensive, however it's completely useless if you're the type of person to turn off your console once you're done playing. The fan noise is minimal, especially at times where my room was as warm as 29 degrees Celsius or 84 degrees Fahrenheit. I could barely hear the fans on games such as Stellar Blade and Death Stranding. As we all know, the PS4 would have a noticeable fan noise on graphically intense games, so much to the point where it had made memes about it taking off. Sony did take that seriously, and hence why the fan is taking up essentially 25 to 30% of the console itself. The bigger the fan, the more air it can pull in with less effort, therefore less noise. Liquid metal is also utilized for cooling, and while in the early days there were speculations that standing the console vertically causes cooling issues due to uneven coverage of the liquid metal, those are debunked and irrelevant today. Even then, most of my friends with a launch model have their console standing vertically for 4 years and still don't have an issue at all. If you're still concerned about this, then just lay your console horizontally. The PS5 does offer fast charging for your phone, and this isn't an official feature, but out of curiosity I plugged in my phone, which is a Samsung S22 Ultra, and noticed it was fast charging. I don't have any special tools to get the exact numbers, however I do know that fast charging a Samsung would need about 15 watts minimum. It's hilarious to think that we'd lose the disk drive on a console before we lose USB-A ports. You do need a one-time internet connection to set up the disk drive, but it's fairly straightforward and it works like a disk drive. There isn't much to say about its performance, but it's significantly noisy this time. I'm just going to start up the PS5 right now. And this isn't a major issue since the PS5 plays games off the SSD once the console is done checking for your license if you're playing a disc-based game, but those 30 seconds of license checking, it's quite noticeable, especially every time you start your console. For some reason it starts spinning up the disc, even though it's not checking for your license. Since I mentioned the SSD, let's expand on that. With the fat PS5 launching with 825GB, Slim with 1TB, and Pro with 2TB, the actual storage usable by you is less than that. Sony is not scamming you. Manufacturers usually advertise storage devices based on their raw storage capacity. The usable storage is always less because of formatting in file system structures. However, the PS5 reserves additional space for SSD wear leveling to ensure durability and longevity of the SSD. And you'd want this because of 2 reasons. One, the SSD is a pain to change for the average person as it's stuck onto the board, and 2. Cryptographic locking. I know a lot of you don't understand what I just said, but let's put it like this. The SSD in the PS5 is custom built and paired with the motherboard with a unique set of keys. If you transplanted an SSD with another PS5 into yours, it wouldn't work. There is currently no ways around this. On the bright side, for the first time in PlayStation home console history, you can expand the internal storage without removing the internal storage, because you can't. As long as the SSD matches the specifications provided by Sony, you can use it. Lastly, the controller. I'm going to be very clear, I don't play any shooter games or games that heavily involve me using the analog stick beyond just having to move my character or turning the steering wheel. I don't turn them in clockwise or anti-clockwise motions like fishing games, and barely any of the games I play require me to click them down for pretty much anything. This is why I believe I haven't suffered any stick drift. With the utilization of linear resonant actuators for haptic feedback that is miles better than the eccentric rotating mass motors used in a DualShock, coupled with the adaptive triggers, makes a controller offering a more premium gaming experience only if game developers choose to utilize a controller to its full advantage, which most of them don't. However, when you pay $80 for a controller, the last thing you expect is to hear creaking. Especially if we compare this to my 10-year-old DualShock 4 with all original parts and over 5,000 hours of usage. The creaking is a bit disappointing. I've discussed how PS5 games perform on a console, but how about PS4 games? 99% backwards compatibility is amazing, along with the fact that you can use PS4 controllers with the PS5 as long as the game isn't a PS5 game. Although I have found a way around this. If you use remote play, you can pretty much use any controller, including an Xbox controller or a PS4 controller, to play PS5 games. So do with this information what you will. Sadly, do not expect any boosted performance when you're playing these PS4 games. The console decreases its performance to the level of a PS4, and if the game has a PS4 Pro enhanced version, then it goes to the PS4 Pro level of performance. Obviously, you do have the SSD loading time benefit, but if you wanted to really overclock your PS4 gaming experience, then you need a PS5 Pro. Yup, a $700 console just to enhance the experience of 10-year-old games using PSSR. I'm pretty sure you wouldn't even care about what PSSR is after hearing the price tag, so let's just skip that one. An honorable mention is that I like how you can change the external covers of the PS5. It adds more personality to the product. Even if you don't like any of the covers Sony has, you can always buy one from a third party. It gives you more options than just having to buy a limited edition console to have a different color console. So that was my take in the 4 months of owning the console. I know I didn't cover topics such as PlayStation Plus, but that can have a whole video of its own in the future. I hope this video was informative for anyone looking into the PS5 and just wanted a quick gloss over the ownership experience. As always, thank you for your time and watching my video. Merry Christmas, and take it easy everyone.